Welcome, everyone. Just gonna wait another minute. Oh, Alicia, you can stop the music. Just gonna wait just another minute for people arriving. And feel free to, introduce yourself if you haven't already in the chat, and also look around and see who's here with us today. Really grateful to see all these folks' names and some faces. Hi, you all. Okay, I'm not saying hi to people individually because I just feel like that's a little rude, but there's someone who I haven't seen in a really long time. Okay. All right, well, let's get started. I am very delighted to be with you all. My name is Katz, and I'm here in Pocumtuck and Nutmunk, unceded territory called Western Massachusetts. And I am a white Ashkenazi cis woman with dark hair and a green snap-down shirt with a white background behind me. I feel very grateful to be with you all, and I'm very grateful to Rabbis for Ceasefire for the huge work in the world right now for Gaza, but also for inviting this opportunity for me to share in this way. And also a big thank you to Elisheva for helping with tech tonight. So this is the first time I'm getting to share about these transmissions in a Zoom call or in a public space like this. And so it's going to be new for us all, including me. I feel really grateful for the opportunity. So let's just start by landing for a minute together. So go ahead and give your body a little movement, a little shake, a little landing. And let's start by just feeling whatever part of your body is making contact with the ground. And just notice that part of you that's touching the chair or the floor or the couch or the bed. That's touching the floor, that's touching the foundation, that's touching the earth. And just notice or imagine the earth coming up to meet you, to take your weight, and to offer you ground. Notice the earth being so much bigger than we are. So much space to land ourselves. And go ahead and notice your breath and see if you can let your exhales be a little bit longer than your inhales. So if your inhale was, let's say, to the count of 3, go ahead and let your exhale be to the count of 6 or 7 or even 8. Just inviting your body to know that it's time to land, to rest and digest, to take in and to release. And then just either notice or imagine the energetic container that we're creating here together, just by bringing our hearts and our attention to this moment. You're welcome to keep your exhales long. You're welcome to keep feeling your feet on the ground, feeling the earth. I mean, you're welcome to do that for the rest of your life, but definitely for the rest of the time that we're here. So I'm going to share what we're doing today. I'm gonna do a little bit of talking, a little bit of framing, and then we're going to listen together to a pre-recorded transmission, a channeled message that some of you may have heard already, but was probably new for most of us. And you can receive that either by listening to Elisheva sharing the screen and listening out loud. She's also, when the time comes, going to drop into the chat the link to the transmission so you can listen on your own device if you want to. And you'll also see the link for the transcription. You can follow along with the words. And then we'll spend some time processing on our own. And I want to encourage you to be processing on your own the entire time we're here. So if you want to be moving, if you want to be stretching, if you want to be drawing or writing or painting, you're very welcome to do that. Encourage it. So we'll have designated time to process on our own after we listen, and then we'll have some time integrating in groups of 2 or 3, and then we'll come to the large group and do a little bit more integration and close by 8:30. That's our plan. So I'm just going to start by kind of diving into a little bit about these transmissions. and my process with them. But first, I want to just invite all of us to consider for a moment, what does it feel like for you when you know something is true? Like, how do you know something is true? What sensations help you trust that, particularly when it's your own intuition? And what does it feel like physically or energetically or emotionally when you have that sense that this is what I'm hearing is the truth for me? And what has your path been so far in embracing and believing in your own felt sense of knowing? And I'm asking these questions because I want to think about the practice of trusting our own intuitive wisdom as an undoing of institutional legacies of oppression. Holding the practice of cultivating this kind of trust in ourselves and our own inner wisdom, in the collective inner wisdom, as an undoing of some of the impacts of assimilation, of colonization, misogyny, white supremacy, anti-Semitism, Christian hegemony. All of these forms of oppression that keep us separate from what we know, that denounce or deny what we know. There's something inherently subversive and transformative about deciding to commit to the practice of trusting ourselves and each other. So if you had told me in my 20s that in my mid 40s I'd be receiving intuitive messages meant for like healing a wide collective in a time of genocide, I would definitely not have believed you, and also probably been like, no, that's not for me. You've got the wrong Jew. Um, my my experience growing up in my immediate family was pretty devoid of spiritual practice or belief. It's like not what we did. It's not what we were up to. And I've spent really significant time in deep grief around disconnection from ancestors and disconnection from a felt sense of spirit or God. I think for so many of us, much of our ancestral wisdom and knowledge and magic was buried or lost or severed from us because of collective trauma and violence. And that meant that so many of our ancestrally inherited gifts and capacities got hidden or disguised or disorganized or blurred for the sake of safety and survival. And I think it's powerful and important to mourn what we've lost, maybe necessary. And I also think that it's powerful and important to consider that we might be cultivating a path towards the reclamation of a million ancestral strengths and capacities, regardless if we know it or not. So I trace my gifts to my mom's father's maternal line, my maternal grandfather's mother's line, who immigrated to New York City from Belarus. And what I've learned in the last few years is that I am, it makes me want to cry to even talk about this. I'm a descendant of channelers, people who stewarded this well of divine wisdom that I also am enrolled to steward. And for me, this path has been circuitous and often quite painful. For years, I didn't know that I was in the process of unearthing these like buried intuitive gifts. And the truth is, I still feel shocked that this is a reality that I live in, and this is the work that I do. Like there's part of me that hasn't quite caught up. But over the last 15 years, I've been practicing and refining this craft and honing my capacity to discern between thinking and intuition, and diving deeper into the different dimensions and expressions of in this inherited gift. that leave me in quite a state of awe. I believe that we all carry many layers of inherited trauma, which means that sometimes shining our light or embodying our strengths can touch on those places of either personal or ancestral memories of extreme violence and victimhood. So we keep our gifts hidden, sometimes consciously, and sometimes in our unconscious for our own safety. And I think it's a powerful and vulnerable act for any of us to re-embody those strengths of our lineages, to make them visible. And it's happening for so many of us in so many different ways, so many different forms. And I think now is the time. Okay, I'm going to say a little bit about my experience and then we're going to dive in. So I'm sharing these next pieces because people ask me this, and I just want to tell you that I don't totally understand what's happening. Like with my mind, I don't totally understand when I'm receiving these transmissions, but it's a very specific physical feeling. Like that lets me know there is a transmission available to be received. And if I'm paying attention and I notice it, then I sit down at this desk here and I turn on my microphone and I light my candles and I open up and just let it stream through me. And when that energy is streaming through, I feel altered and I feel held in like a warm, kind of gentle, like bolstered way. And I also feel this incredible width around me, like I'm standing in the center of an enormous cavern with this very clear, precise energy, like just dropping down through me that articulates into words as it comes through. And I haven't shared these transmissions because I think they're the ultimate truth. I'm sharing them because I feel called to share them. And it feels aligned, and it also feels like a huge edge for me. But I believe that for me, this is the biggest contribution I can make to our collective in fighting for a free Gaza in this time. And so I'm doing it. And I share them as an invitation to each of you to take whatever feels aligned and nourishing and supportive, and to integrate it and to make it yours and to let it inform your work and your contributions and help it to deepen your own commitment to your own capacities and strengths. And yeah, and what comes through that feels not quite aligned for you or just doesn't speak to you, the invitation is to release it completely. I'm really most interested in defaulting and supporting what is aligned for you in your own knowing. So the transmission we're going to listen to is called Teaching Number 11 in the first collection of transmissions in For Sacred Consideration. I'm starting in on the 5th collection, so this is from quite some time ago, actually. And this one, well, I'll say that, first of all, this one is the 3rd one that's directly addressing grief. And you're welcome to go back and listen to the previous 2. We'll hear that part explained as the recording begins. But this one is addressing the processing of grief through political action. And I've learned that the timing of these coming through, like when I receive them, and also the timing when people receive them, when people listen to them or receive them, how you do, it can be very different, but it's often, or it's just, I get to trust that it's aligned in some way. So this one came through last December, the really violent, but very different moment than the time we're in right now with this escalation in Lebanon. It's like a different, just like literally a different world. And I trust that this transmission contains something potent for each of us that are choosing to be here tonight. Okay, so Elisheva is about to share her screen. And Elisheva, will you also drop into the chat the link to the audio recording and the link to the transmission so everyone can follow along if you want to. You're also welcome to like turn off your screen and lie down or stretch or move or do it any sort of practice that is going to help you to stay present and connected. And again, as you listen, you're invited to soak up what feels nourishing and get curious about the pieces that feel evocative or inspiring, and dismiss completely anything that doesn't feel aligned with your own inner wisdom. When we come back, we're going to go right into time for people to process on their own, and then we'll move from there. Okay, here we go, everyone. Glad to be with you.
Blessings to each of you receiving these transmissions. This teaching is the third, focusing on multiple aspects of grief. There will continue to be many teachings offered here about the different facets, experiences, and layers of grief. For now, we will be focusing on the processing of grief through action. It is astounding the amount of grief, including sorrow, heartbreak, rage, fury, sadness, that is being transmuted at this time by humans coming together physically and virtually to demand an end to violence. Every time humans come together with the intention of a ceasefire, with the intention of an end to occupation, with the intention of a deliberate transformation towards liberation. The gathering itself, the coming together, catalyzes the transmutation, the processing through of these emotional and energetic layers. Currently, the actions unfolding are supporting the transmutation, not just of the grief being held by those attending, but the layers of grief being held by those who are being witnessed, allied with, advocated for, uplifted, upheld. Specifically those in Gaza, who are losing loved ones, family, beloveds at an unprecedented rate. When you come together on their behalf, one of the expressions of your intention is towards this healing, towards this release. We feel it is helpful for you to know this, for your intentions are often towards immediate advocacy, policy change, a calling for action of your representatives, those in leadership who have the capacity to halt the funding or the political support to the bombing occurring still. This action is necessary. It is necessary. And whether or not this action has direct, imminent impact on the position of the authority in your city, in your state, in the country. There is a secondary, but not less necessary impact of the coming together itself, which, as we have stated, is the healing of enormous grief. Thank you for the pouring of your hearts into the organizing of these gatherings, into the organizing of risk, of arrest, of violence. Thank you for the organizing of gatherings centered on prayer, centering song, centering more traditional forms of pleading for peace, for healing, for the releasing of grief. Your actions towards gathering for the sake of political alignment, for the sake of prayer, for the sake of song, for the sake of learning, understanding, deepening analysis, deepening the connection to traditional text. Gatherings to support those to speak of, process through, connect around emotional experiences. Gatherings to notice, name, and release the layers of accrued ancestral experiences, wounding, trauma that you know now are directly being invoked for the sake of release with the beautiful and powerful escort of the portal and those beings attending to the portal, supporting the full release and resolve of the imprint, the impact of victimhood throughout the planet, including your own. Any action that draws people together for any layer of attending to this current experience, atrocity, supports the transmutation of grief. It is significant for you to know this. For many of you are leaving actions where you have poured your heart, actions which have made an impact politically, culturally, societally, and energetically. And you walk away with a sense of completion or any number of emotions that arise throughout the experience or from the totality of the experience itself. But what is important to recognize is that grief continues to process through you once the action has completed. Some of you are leaving direct action where you have taken risk, and you may feel both elated and exhausted to an extent that is understandable but not fully explainable. Much of this is because the enormity of the grief that action tended to continues far beyond the experience of the gathering itself. It would be inaccurate to assume that you feel exhausted physically, mentally, spiritually afterwards simply because of the physical labor or because of the emotional impact of the event itself, although those pieces are, of course, alive. But what we wish for you to understand is that you continue. You continue individually, you continue collectively to transmute through your body. Thus, it is helpful to stay connected to others in their own process. It is helpful to stay connected to this understanding of what is occurring. And it is not only helpful but necessary to attend to the body as you allow this energy to move through you. For to say yes to the action itself is to say yes to the processing of the particular aspects of grief that are being transmuted through the action. Some of you will continue to allow this transmutation to occur by moving into the next action, planning, organizing, strategizing, making phone calls, writing, consulting, discussing, or supporting others involved in an action, emotionally, spiritually, or perhaps moving into prayer, moving into song, allowing the energy to move through these vehicles. All of this is additional action, and all of this is a way to support the processing through. Thus, you see there are more layers being added, but also a continuous processing through transmutation of what is being transformed. When you can, rest is deeply helpful. When you can, physical nourishment by way of food, by way of physical connection is deeply helpful. To do what you know to do, to tend to your physical form, to do what you know to do, to allow the emotional release that your body is capable of. To use the tools you have to stretch when it feels aligned and to retreat and find a bit of respite so as to support your physical form in furthering to completion the energetic aspect of each action. There is no wrong way to engage in this work. There is simply more to support yourself that you may choose to engage. It may be helpful to recall that there is not only an enormous amount of grief being experienced currently and being evoked because of the current circumstance, but there is also an extraordinary amount of spiritual support available. Beings who are tending to, escorting, holding the outer layers of this portal designated specifically to support the transmutation, the full release of victimhood and all layers of victimhood from the planet in this time. Thus, there is a significant arising of both ancestral and karmic layers of pain, as well as beautiful, energetic escorting, midwifing of the release of this pain. We invite you to lean in when you can to the presence of this support, to lean in when you can to the care, the holding, the ocean energy, supporting, escorting, stewarding the release of these layers. It is effortful to hold on to the belief that you as individuals are doing this work alone. It is effortful to imagine and to believe that you are without this support. individually isolated to navigate the layers of pain on your own. We invite you to relieve yourself of this additional effort by considering that you are being beautifully accompanied as you navigate the many layers of current, collective, personal, karmic, and ancestral wounding that is being transmuted, transformed in this time. To allow yourselves to consider the care and exquisite attunement of this energetic spiritual accompaniment supports your nervous system, your endocrine system, your immune systems to rest, to feel bolstered, to feel supported as you are, leaving you more energy, focus, direction to attend to the actions that are again required in this time. We thank you so deeply for your work, for your efforts, for all of the myriad of ways that you are participating consciously and unconsciously in moving towards a permanent ceasefire in this time, and also moving towards increased liberation, safety for all peoples. There is one last piece we wish to attend to before completing this teaching. Many of you have organized yourself around actions that have been halted, that have not fully manifested in ways that you intended or wished. Writing that never was published. Actions that were postponed and never rescheduled. Ideas that maintained their position in the realm of ideas never to manifest. We wish to speak to this for one moment, for each of these were catalysts for the healing, the transmutation, the transformation, the processing of particular layers of grief that were entered into your field, meaning they were accessible to you. So many, if not every single one of the ideas that initiated but did not manifest for the grief that the idea was aligned to attend to fully transmuted simply by evoking the idea itself. There was no need for the article to be published, for the protest to occur, for the circle to happen, for simply the idea of it, the planning of it, the discussion about it, the details that were, in fact, organized, oriented, tended fully to the energetic service that the idea was aligned with, attending to, designated. Thus, we invite you to consider reframing what may have felt like a failure, to recognizing that those actions were simply completed. Those actions were simply complete. This does not mean that you may not decide to take on the idea again in a different time, in a different formation, and in that case, it will be attending to transforming different aspects of grief. Different layers of energetic healing will be attended. But those that were aligned for the initial idea are complete. What kind of kindness, gentleness, pause can you offer your own body, your own heart, your own emotional system, knowing that your efforts, any efforts, have not been in vain? What kind of kindness, consideration, compassion can you offer yourself, your physical form, considering that you are attending not only to what you see and what you are organizing or participating in or attending that is spoken of, that is understood collectively, but that you are also always engaging with, attending to multiple layers of healing at the same time. What kind of care, what kind of consideration, what kind of exhale are you willing to offer yourself, knowing that you are beautifully and deeply interconnected in a collective that is attending to the healing, to the transformation, to the liberation with every action, every breath you take. For now, this teaching is complete.
Thank you for listening, you all. This is my voice, but unrecorded. It's really good to be here listening and receiving with you all. And we're just going to spend about 5 minutes here. Just if there's things you want to go back and read or do more processing in any way, this is your time. We'll just spend 5 minutes here. And we're going to, Alicia was gonna play Ali Halper's song, Ayacha. And if you can turn down, you can just turn down the audio if you want to be in silence, but we'll come back when the song's done. And for those of you who might want, thanks. For those of you who might want a little bit of prompting, just to get you processing a little bit, you could think about what aspects of the transmission speak to your heart, what you found curious or inspiring or challenging, and how might some of this inform your organizing, your leadership, your spiritual life, your personal relationships in this time. So we're dropping those prompts in the chat as well. All right, see you in 5.
קודם מאחיך צועקים אליי מן האדמה מה עשית קודם מאחיך צועקים אליי מן האדמה From the ground I hear them calling your brother's blood. What can grow here? What have we done? From the soil I מאחיך צועקים אליי מן האדמה.
All right, y'all. We're gonna now just take about 10 minutes in small groups of threes. And this time is really meant to kind of, well, to connect with each other, first of all. And just to get to kind of share out loud like pieces that are rumbling inside of you or that you're making sense of or that you're drawing meaning from that would be helpful to kind of share aloud, to kind of hear yourself articulate, or to kind of elicit from the group, like how people are thinking about different pieces together. So same prompts. Elisheva is going to drop in the chat again. And these prompts are not, they're not, they're just meant to be supportive. You can do whatever you want with the time. But we'll let you know when, let's say when we're halfway through. And then we'll come back in 10 minutes. And then we'll do a little bit of the same in the large group. Okay, see you soon. Welcome back, everyone. We have a few minutes now just to get to share out loud. And yeah, what I'm most curious about is it's just anything that you're kind of thinking about, coming to, integrating, understanding, questioning, inspired by, curious about, figured out, that you feel like sharing out loud would be nourishing for you and also might be supportive for the group. Doesn't have to be a complete thought. We have about maybe about 12 minutes or so to share. So so be brief so that we can hear from a few people, but also love to hear from your heart. So if you feel like your heart's beating and you're really scared to share something, but you feel like you might too, that might be because it's your turn to go first. So space is open.
And I hope I'll just when we ended in our groups, one of the members of our group asked the question of what the world would look like without victimhood, right? And the
Wow.
transmutation was a new word for me. And so really dove into that a bit and thinking about what that word means and what are we mutating towards and away from victimhood, and just let's just like wipe victimhood away completely, and what that world would be.
Thank you, Jody.
I think what I'm having trouble with is the idea that comes through so strongly in the transmission that what we are doing is enough. And I'm just trying to trust that what I can do is enough. But it's so hard to feel that. So I appreciate what was said about kindness and gentleness, and because it is so important to continue showing up and doing the work, to take that time to acknowledge that we have needs as humans to restore ourselves, and someone else will be showing up when we tap out. That's another thing that I've recently been considering, is that when I tap out, someone else will click in. I hope that's the case.
Thank you, Bella.
This is Or. Yeah, I was really struck by you're not doing this work alone. That's something that I have been wrestling with, not feeling alone in movement, but feeling alone in my family and in my lineages, and especially lineages that have so much implication in the project of Zionism and so much harm. And just this reminder that there is, in addition to all of that pain, also a proportionate amount of care and support, feels really yeah, just really grounding and resourcing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe, and your guides. Yeah, I've been sitting with this concept that the grief that gets opened in the context of an action, whether that be an action that is political or a grief space or even a piece of writing, like that it continues beyond what might be sensed as the completion point. And yeah, I think that that's something that when I'm holding an act like a grief space, I'm very conscious of at the end closing and pouring out the water and doing an energetic cleansing, and yet to think about when you're not in a space that's like intended as a grief space, there's still grief that's processing. And so to orient to the body and to orient to the energy with that what's the word, acknowledgement, and to also orient to others who are engaging as well, who may not be as conscious of the grief that's moving through them, but that still is. Feels like a really important invitation from this transmission. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll share one of my own reflections. I remember that this transmission came through around the time when I was hearing from like 4 or 5 different people that they had been working on an article or trying to organize an action or just 4 or 5 different like really full on like pour their whole heart and all their energy into things that then just totally dropped. Like the whole thing imploded or the whole thing didn't happen or just like that's it. And just like the devastation of that and the frustration of that and the powerlessness of that and the like, I can't even make this happen. How are we supposed to? And it was really incredible for me to hear coming through that piece at the end of the transmission about like something got attended to. That doesn't mean the article won't come out later or that the book doesn't need to be written or that action wasn't sound. It's just that like whatever it was needing to be attended to got attended to. That to me, like it actually opens up a lot of hope, because it's one of the pieces in these transmissions that reminds me that there's things that are going on that we want to be going on that we don't see. That it's not only like we don't only need to gather evidence of things being generative and life-giving, that we can acknowledge with like the senses that we're used to sensing with, like there's things happening that would be supportive and like furthering towards what we want that we're not necessarily tracking. So it felt relieving to me. And I feel like that little piece at the end was a gift. Yeah. Well, so we've got just another few minutes. Love to hear more voices.
Well, I got a message about thanking my ancestors and acknowledging, you called it the accrued ancestral experience, invoking my direct lineage and the larger network to support their release. So not just mine, not just the lateral plane, but like both in the past and for the future.
Mm. Mm. Thank you, Alicia. All right, you all, let's take a breath together. And just bring your attention back to your, whatever part of your body is touching something that's touching something that's touching the earth. And go ahead and let your exhale be long again. Inviting your body to continue to digest and integrate. One of the deeper experiences that I've had with these transmissions in the last almost year now is like picking up from ancestral accrued isolation. And so I just want to personally thank each of you for being here to kind of help me out of that. It feels like any time in all of this that we're getting to be together and actually feel like we're together makes a difference. I think it's easy to be together and not even feel it. So just inviting you to take this last few minutes together just to notice all these people with you, choosing to open our hearts and be together and grapple the more nuanced, energetic pieces of this time. For anybody interested in hearing more of the canon or receiving more of the canon of these transmissions, Alicia, will you drop that link in the chat? It's for the Patreon, and you're welcome to share it with everybody that you know. It's an option to become a free member, and it's an option to become a paid member. And I appreciate any of that. I just would love for these to be shared. And if you are able to support me in it, I yes to that. Thank you. Okay. Just gonna take another deep breath with you all here. Mihi leratzoni mefi v'higyon libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of our mouths, meditations, the prayers, the intention of our hearts be received by you, Adonai, oneness. And may all of our efforts and energies tonight and ongoing be a blessing and support of the full and complete ceasefire and a free and sovereign, safe Gaza and Palestine and Lebanon. May the people of Israel be safe. May the people of Gaza, the West Bank, and Lebanon be safe and free. May it be so. Can you hear it, Son? So
Amen.
grateful to be together, you all. Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Joe. That was incredible. I want to say also on behalf of Rabbis for Ceasefire, a huge thank you for leading this session. And a thank you to everyone who showed up, who brought your heart, and who was here for this teaching. You will get a recording, and yes, share. Before we close, I'm going to post a link in the chat to Rabbis for Ceasefire Linktree. This holds multiple resources for the upcoming holidays. We have an open community directory, multiple upcoming Slichot services, and our last pre-holiday workshop led by Ilana Sumka, titled Palestine, a Collective Tshuva Process. Finally, I especially want to call your attention to an invitation to join us either in person or over live stream for a Yizkor service on Yom Kippur. The service will be a mass ritual of remembrance, refusal, and recommitment. The ritual will be organized by Rabbis for Ceasefire with Congregation Kolot Chayenu, Jewish Voices for Peace, If Not Now, Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, and with organizing support from Christians for a Free Palestine. Thank you again so much for your presence, and we hope to be with you again soon. I'm going to drop one more link into the chat. And I'm going to redrop all the links, the audio for the transcription, for the transmission we heard, the transcription, how to get onto Patreon, the link tree. There you go. There it all is in one place. I'm going to put on some music. Keep breathing, everyone. Thank you for all your good works. Thank you, Rabbis for Ceasefire, for your courage and for doing this.
Amen. Thank you, Elisha. Take care, everyone.
Refine